Hello there. Let's talk about how can we extract each digit from a number starting from the very last to the very first. For that, let me take an example. Let's say the example is 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, what are we supposed to do here is we are supposed to get the last digit from the given number, which is 4 in this case, and then we are supposed to trim the number such that the last digit is not there in the number. So when we do that, what are we going to get? We're going to get 123, right? And then we are supposed to get the last digit from the new number. So if we do that, we will get 3. And then we are supposed to trim 123 such that 3 is not there. And this will give us 12. Now, if you take a look at whatever we have done so far, you would notice that in the first step, we got the last digit of the original number, right? And in the next step, we got the last digit of the new number. But that last digit, which is 3, is actually the second last digit of the original number, right? And if we continue doing that, what are we going to get next is 2. And this 2 is the last digit of 12, but the third last digit of the original number. And continuing this, we will get 1. And if we take 1 and trim 1, what are we going to get? We're going to get nothing because we have exhausted all the digits that were there in the number originally, right? So this is how we can get all the digits from a given number starting from last to the very first. And because we started from last and went to the first digit, the digits that we have got are in the reversed order of their appearance in the original number. What I mean by this is the original number was 1, 2, 3, 4. But we got 4 first, then 3, then 2, and then 1. Now, if you're wondering if it is possible to start from the first digit and go all the way to the last digit, let me tell you that it is. But we're not going to discuss that in this video. In this video, we will focus our attention to extracting digits from a number starting from last to first. But in the next video, we will discuss how can we extract each digit of a given number from the first digit to the last digit. And let me also tell you that this process is more preferred when it comes to extracting digits from a number. And now this must have made you wonder as why is that the case? And if it did, I will have a separate video where I'll take both these approaches into consideration, that is extracting from last to first and extracting from first to last. I'll compare them and I'll explain why is extracting from last to first more preferred. For now, let's continue with this. So what did we discuss so far was we will get the last digit of the number and then we will trim that number such that the last digit is not there. Once we do that, we will end up with a new number and we will go for the same set of steps on the new number. That is, get the last digit and then trim the number such that the last digit is not there, and then go on as long as there are digits remaining in the number. When there are no more digits remaining, stop, right? So this is what we will have to do. But the next question is, how can we do it using programming? For that, let me clear this entirely and let me start from scratch. Let's say the number that we have is 1, 2, 3, 4. And what are we supposed to get here is 4, right? In the next step, the number would be 1, 2, 3 because we would be trimming the original number such that the last digit is not there. So if we have 1, 2, 3 and we get the last digit, we will get 3. And then we will trim this. We will get a new number, get the last digit of the new number, then trim this, get a new number, get the last digit, and trim this as well to ultimately end up with nothing, right? And this is where we stop. So let's discuss it in 2 different steps. The first step is how do we get the last digit of a given number? Now, to get the last digit of a given number, what we can do is we can divide that number by 10 and we can collect the remainder. So if we divide a number by 10 and collect the remainder, we will get the last digit. So let me show that by taking an example. Let's say I take 1, 2, 3, 4 and I divide this by 10. What do I get? I get 123 as the quotient and 4 as the remainder, right? So this 4 is the last digit of the number that we divided by 10. Now, you may have observed that we got 123 as the quotient, which is actually the original number trimmed such that the last digit is not there, right? We will come to this, but later. For now, let's just consider the fact that dividing a number by 10 and collecting the remainder is going to give us the last digit of that number, which means to get 4, we will have to divide 1, 2, 3, 4 by 10 and collect the remainder. For 3, we will have to divide 123 by 10 and collect the remainder. And we will have to do the same thing over here with 12, which will give us 2. The same thing over here with 1 is going to give us 1. And with that, we will end these steps, right? So we can get 4, 3, 2, and 1, which is what something we want. But the next question is, starting from 1, 2, 3, 4, how do we get to 1, 2, 3? And this is something we have just seen, right? If we divide 1, 2, 3, 4 by 10 and we collect the quotient, what are we going to get? We are going to get 123, right? So summarizing all of this, if we have a number and we divide it by 10, we will get a remainder and a quotient. The remainder would be the last digit of the given number, and the quotient would be the last digit trimmed from the given number, right? So the solution to our problem is dividing the given number by 10, collecting the quotient and the remainder, and continuing with the quotient, right? Because in the next step, as you can see, we are continuing with the quotient. Now, if you're wondering why exactly did I choose division and why specifically by 10, please let me know in the comments and I'll make a separate video explaining the intuition behind this. For now, let's just continue with the fact that dividing a number by 10 and collecting the quotient and the remainder is going to give us what we need. And with that information, let's continue and let's think about the code that we will have to write in order to solve this. Now, since we are moving towards code, let me take this number itself, but let me store it in a variable, say n. So if we have n and we want the last digit of n based on whatever we have discussed so far, we will have to divide n by 10, right? And that will give me the last digit of n. So what I'll do now is I'll store that last digit in a variable called ld, right? So if n is 1, 2, 3, 4, we know that ld will be 4. Then if n is 1, 2, 3, ld will be 3. If n is 12, ld will be 2. If n is 1, ld will be 1. And finally, n will become 0. Why? Because if we have 1 and we divide this by 10 and collect the quotient, which is what we are doing for this, we will get 0, right? So n will become 0 and we will stop. And ld will contain each digit of the original number one by one, right? Now, this must have told you that the value of n will have to be changed every time. If it starts from 1234, it should become 123, then it should become 12, and then it should become 1, and then finally 0, right? So let's discuss about this part now. Now, we know that in order to get 123 from 1234, that is, in order to trim the last digit from the given number and get a new number, we will have to go for division and collecting the quotient, right? So putting that as code, this is what we will have to do. We'll have to go for n by 10. If we do this, we will get the quotient, right? And we have just discussed that if we start from 1234, LD will be 4. And in order to get the second last digit of the original number, we will have to trim the original number such that the last digit is no more there, right? So that means we will have to trim it to 123. And trimming it to 123 can be done using this expression, right? Now, we want to extract the last digit from here. And we know how to do that. We can do that using this expression, correct? Now, if you take a look, this LD will contain the last digit of whatever is there in N, which means that if you have to take the last digit of 123 and store 3 in LD, you'll have to ensure that N is equal to 123, correct? So combining all of this, we get 123 over here if the value of n is 1, 2, 3, 4. And what we can do is we can store that back in n. So if we do that, let me tell you what is going to happen now. So we've got LD and we have got n, right? LD will have nothing initially, but n will have 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, after the first statement executes, n mod 10 is going to give us 4, right? And then we are going to go for n by 10, and n by 10 will give us 123. And we are going to store that back in the variable n. So if we do that, we will get 123 over here. Now, because n has got 123, if we go for n mod 10, we will get 3, right? So we will get 3 over here, and then we will change the value of n to 12, correct? And that is how we will proceed, which is exactly what we have discussed over here, right? So if we proceed that way, we are going to get 2 over here in LD, and then n will change to 1. Then we are going to get 1 here in LD, and then n, as we have discussed, will change to 0. And when n changes to 0, we will stop, because that is an indication that there's no more digit left in the original value of n, right? So taking all of this into consideration, what does this tell you? This tells you that you'll have to divide n by 10 and collect the remainder to get the last digit. Then you'll have to divide n by 10 and collect the quotient to get the next value of n on which you will operate on and find the last digit, right? And all of this has to continue for some number of times. And that is governed by a condition. And the condition is n should not be equal to 0. Because if n is equal to 0, we stop, right? So combining all of this, can we say that we need a loop? Well, yes, we will. Now, what's the next step? The next step is putting this into a loop. And that loop should run as long as n is not equal to 0, right? And for that, can we do this? Can we say while n not equal to 0, execute these two statements? We can, right? And what's going to happen here is LD will be first of all 4, then n will change to 123, and then when n is 123, this condition will be true, and LD will be 3. Then n will change to 12, and LD will be 2, then n will change to 1, LD will be 1, and finally n will change to 0. And when n changes to 0, this condition will become false and we will stop over here, right? So this way we can get all the digits of a given number starting from the last to the very first. Now with this clear, let's go to IntelliJ and let's write the code for this. For that, I will expand src and then iteration statements, and I'll create a new Java class over here, and I'll say extract digits from last to first. And here I'll have a main method. Then I'll say int n is equal to, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4. And on the basis of whatever we had discussed, we'll say while n not equal to 0, get the last digit. So we'll say int last digit is equal to n mod 10. And then we will say n equal to n by 10. And let's also print the last digit, right? Let's print it on the same line, but with a space. So if I run this code, what do we expect as the output? We expect 4, 3, 2, and 1, one after the other, separated by spaces, right? So if I run the code, let's see what do we get. And we got 4, 3, 2, 1. And if I change the value of n to, let's say, this, I should get 6, 9, 9, 8, 4, 5, 8. And that is what we're getting over here. So this is how we can extract all the digits of a given number starting from last to first. Now, if you're wondering, where will this even be useful? I have a whole bunch of questions that I'm going to solve using iteration statements, which would use this pattern. For all of these questions, we will have to extract the digits and we will have to process the digit that we have extracted. So with this, we come to the end of the video. Summarizing, we got to know about one of the ways in which we can extract digits from a given number, where we start from the last digit and go all the way to the first digit. So I hope I've been able to teach you something new and useful. If you have any suggestions, feedback, or queries, feel free to put them in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.